All right, we're starting a new D&D campaign. I'm super excited to start, so let's go ahead and get rolling here. You find yourself in a tavern, and as you walk in, you hear, all right, immediately I am definitely gonna go flirt with that barkeeper. I'm gonna go find a corner to go be mysterious and broody in. Oh, I'm immediately finding a table that's got a card game going on and seeing if I can get dealt in.
When characters who don't know each other start in a tavern, it's awkward and clunky at best a lot of the times, and there's definitely a lack of immersion that comes with it, because how do you make the cleric and the rogue get along long enough to become a party? Why would the edgy rogue care about whatever plight the cleric has? So let's talk about it. Let's look at why there's discomfort in that lack of bonds, as well as how to mitigate it. So let's get comfy and get into it.
You see a cloaked figure in the corner of the tavern. They're drinking some wine, and
it's a cliche way to open a game, but the whole party meets in a tavern, finds a mysterious benefactor, the mysterious benefactor gives them a plot hook, and it's the first encounter that makes the party decide to stick together as a party. And in a lot of situations, especially for newer DMs, they stick together as a party because the players want to play the game. There's a level of awareness in the players that says that they know that they need to play along and just kind of brute force their character into this in order to have a party and to be a part of the adventure that we're trying to tell. Yes, it is cliche, but it does get the job done. There's not a lot of pizzazz with it, but it is a cliche for a reason. It's been used as a starter for these types of games multiple times. And chances are, if your characters have never met each other up until this moment, things are probably going to feel a little chunky, clunky, awkward, at least through the first combat and the first handfuls of interactions. Because again, until you give the cleric a reason, why would they want to work with the shifty rogue? There are likely reasons why they would, depending on backstories and character arcs, but until they find that out ahead of time, there's definitely options as to why they would want to. But it can take a little bit of time, and maybe more than a couple of sessions to get to that point, depending on the backstory and why the cleric tolerates petty theft from the rogue. And in one-shots, I've seen this go a couple of different directions. Either A, things are brushed over, characters understand that they are here to play a game, so they're kind of forced to have that conversation. Or B, they all kind of scatter to go do their own thing in the tavern, and you have to end up cutting something else later on because it takes too much time to actually get the party to work together and become a party. There's definitely reasons for the cleric to work with the rogue, don't get me wrong. But depending on the rogue's backstory and the distaste that the cleric might have for petty theft, getting to that conversation and finding out those reasons to stick together could take up to several sessions, and if you're running a one-shot, you don't always have that kind of time. So in one-shots, I see this going one of two ways. A, the characters just brute force their way through it and they say, hey, we conveniently all sit at the same table, we're all conveniently a party, let's go. Or, and this is more common with new players, they will just go do their own thing in the tavern and you'll have to cut something else later because it takes so long to gather the party. In campaigns, you do have a little bit more time. You've got several sessions. But I've also found that whatever the characters do in the first few sessions of a game don't often matter. Obviously, what the characters do accomplish in those first few sessions are important, but you're still kind of stretching your Aarakocra's wings, as it were. You're trying to see if that voice is going to stick with the character, or how sticky of fingers your rogue actually has. But it can still be really clunky and frustrating to feel like you can't flirt with the barmaid when that's really what the bard feels like they should do. While most players do understand that there is a goal and a story to be told and not necessarily rails but a plot to go explore, they also want to play their character as intended. And sometimes those characters need a push in the right direction. So how do you get players to make these bonds and still have the freedom to play the characters how it feels appropriate? Well, there's some options. When I do one-shots, I will often tell players ahead of time that they are already a party and they've been a party for a while. When we properly start the game, I'll ask a series of just quick, improv, rapid-fire questions.
Rogue, what's the most valuable thing you've stolen? Guard ceremonial rapier that I still use as my regular weapon. Great. And barbarian, how did you help the rogue acquire that? I distracted the guards. I helped the bard. The bard played a little tune on his lute, and I danced to distract the guards.
It can be silly. It doesn't have to be related to the current adventure, and probably isn't, but it is fun. And it also allows your characters to recognize that improv answers are super valid in this scenario, so they can kind of riff off of each other. Or if you have players that you think might be a little uncomfy because of coming up with something on the fly like that, you can always send out these questions ahead of time. That way, when you start the adventure, after getting these questions answered, the play actually starts a little bit more like...
So you step into a tavern and you hear the local bard strumming on his lyre. The bartender gives you a nod and you all immediately find a table to drop your things at and get comfy. Once everyone is all settled in, I'm gonna go see about getting us some drinks. Is the barkeep cute? Yeah, she's a cute little half-elf lass. Great, I'm gonna go over and talk to her. My character's immediately shutting that down and grabbing your character by the ear and dragging them back to the table because didn't you learn the last time you tried to flirt with someone? As you come back to the table and gather up with the party, a town guard approaches the group. Excuse me, you seem to all be adventurers here. I hate to interrupt or pry, but I'm hoping we could get a bit of assistance here. We're in a bit of a pickle and we could really use someone with a bit more expertise in this matter. Would you mind helping us out?
Did anything even happen the last time the bard tried to flirt? Nobody knows, and we might not ever know because it's not relevant to this current situation. But because of that improv you did beforehand, the group knows that things being pulled out of thin air are kind of okay, and they're going to run with it. What this boils down to is characters having bonds. While it may not come up in every single one-shot, definitely in a campaign, I think it's always a good idea to tie characters together prior to the campaign start. Maybe that means the warlock and the paladin grew up in the same village and kind of have a brother-sister relationship. Or maybe the wizard and the sorcerer went to magic school together and are a little bit of rivals. In one of my campaigns, all of the characters are nobles, so at the very least, they knew going into this that they at least knew each other from saying hi at the party punch bowl. They know at least a little bit about each other because the rules of social drama and intrigue say they do. That's what it was to be a social elite of the time. But some know each other more than others. My wizard and bard, for example, grew up as childhood friends. And the warlock and the artificer are the same secret society members. The cleric and the warlock also went to school together, and the cleric and the bard are having a secret love affair. There are so many layers of relationships at that table, and it means that there's buy-in from every single character, regardless of what quest we're on or who's the priority in backstory at the time. There's so many layers of relationships at this table that it means that there's a lot of buy-in regardless of whose arc is currently getting dug into in whatever quest we're on. There are also ways to force the party together as well without it feeling like a brute force situation. By putting in negative consequences for not working together, you aren't taking away player agency, but you are making it make sense that these characters have to work together whether they want to or not. For example, make an obstacle that the players can't get around without assistance. Maybe only parties of 4 or larger can pass through the city gates due to the dangers out in the wild. The town guards monitor everyone who comes in and out of the city, and it's not in a weird big brother way, but in a we need to make sure that we know who's going in and out so that we can keep track of who might need a rescue party or make sure that everyone actually has that party of 4. And if only a party of 3 comes back, we need to know what happened and where to find that body. The villagers who live here are tough and hardened because of these hardships. And because of these dangers out in the woods, they're very leery of outsiders. They'll service you. You'll get your room and board, you'll get your food or supplies from the general store. But it becomes very clear that you are considered an outcast in this town, which means that every other party member is as well, as long as they did not originate at this town. At minimum, there's a transactional relationship that needs to happen for the party to group up and leave together. And they're more likely to do that because they are all considered the social outcasts. The village has made it very clear that none of them belong here, so they're certainly not going to get aid from another villager. But from another outcast, people like to naturally stick together, and that's something that you can really use to your advantage as a DM. Option 2 is the classic blackmail option. I run a game that started with NPCs all receiving letters to their home inviting them to tea at an NPC's place, and then upon arriving, they were explained that the benefactor of that NPC, Dr. Stevenson, was tasking them with a quest. Whether that benefactor is the warlock's patron or a noble of an area, that patron has dirt on the characters, and it was made very clear that if they do not complete this quest, that dirt would be aired out to the public and it would ruin them. If all of them do not accept the quest, those secrets are revealed. This does take a bit of pre-game work because I had to work with my characters to make these secrets and what these secrets would be, because they have to be big enough that they would truly destroy my characters' lives. These aren't secrets like I robbed a 7-Eleven in my youth. This was something substantial that would truly impact them and all of their loved ones. They have to work together now because the stakes have been made high enough that they are involved whether they want to be or not. I even actually made this a little more fun because that your formerly invited letter I actually sent out to my players with wax seals to get them hype and get them excited to be a part of this. Option 3 would be starting in battle. It can definitely spice things up, though a big ol' asterisk on this one, this probably isn't for new players who are just learning D&D. I would not suggest this as the way to start things off with players who have never played before. But starting in battle can absolutely spice things up and get players engaged. If you open a scene with the attack on the town that all of the players are either from or live in currently, or at least a town that they've kind of made the base of their operations, they're going to have stakes in saving this town. And after the battle, it becomes a lot easier for characters to have conversation. Like, maybe the fighter wants to ask the rogue if they can get some tips on how to use a dagger or get some sneak attacks off. Or maybe the cleric can go around helping patch people up alongside the monk. After the battle, it becomes a lot easier for characters to run into each other and have conversations. They can talk about the battle and what they think happened or what the heck caused it, and they can also talk about maybe getting some tips of their own. So maybe the cleric wants to talk to the fighter about getting some extra ways to swing their mace around, or maybe the barbarian tries to help out the cleric with distributing supplies. It forces players to learn to work quickly together. By everyone trauma bonding via a horrific battle, it makes it a lot easier to have the rogue decide that maybe they do need a party to help out on this quest, or maybe that fighter isn't so bad. You can also have your players meet in a dream. This does take more prep as a DM, and probably only works within a few select settings, so use this one with caution. But it will definitely pique player interest. Have them all have a shared collective dream about each other. You could flavor this as a prophecy as well, but essentially, you're going to have them have a shared collective dream amongst each other. You can also flavor this as a prophecy if you would prefer, but it's basically a foretelling of saying that they need to get the team together and go get the magic MacGuffin. You could also flavor this as a higher power whispering to them and pulling them towards that magic MacGuffin, and whether that higher power is good or evil is truly your choice. Use vague descriptors for the rest of the party. For example, if you tell the fighter to find the sneak thief with the knife of ice. Why is that such a tongue twister? It'll probably make them pay attention though when the arcane trickster rogue uses ice knife in the next combat. Another option is to start with your players lost. Make them lost in the woods or the snowy valley and have them run into each other because they're all up there for their own reasons. This allows for some cool character vignettes and some cool highlighting of abilities that all of the characters have before they meet everyone else. And you'll want the environment to be dangerous enough that teaming up makes the most sense, so be cautious using this with lower level play. Whether that means that the woods are magically imbued and the trees are reaching out to try and grab them, or the bitter cold is causing windburn and they're freezing to death slowly and getting exhaustion just from being outside, or maybe it's the sweltering heat causing it. It should be something substantial enough that separating is just not an option for survival. I actually did a video with James from DM with a Day Job that kind of talks about winter as its own character and as a survival feature. So go check that out if you're interested in more on that. But once those players are together and once those characters are together, that gives them the opportunity to be forced to work together to get out of this situation. And by doing so then, having that bond and experience created for them. Hopefully, this helps you initiate some character bonds at your table. You can push through the plot a lot easier with that, or at least get the plot rolling with that a lot easier. As always, thank you so much for watching the video. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that really does help, and I will see you guys next time.